Sending Soleimani to hell has sent Democratic hopefuls fumbling for talking points. But dealing with this Iranian crap storm is a lot more than playing grab at us at a Des Moines elk lodge. Elks, sorry. This presidential cycle has been mostly about impeachment and comportment. And foreign policy thus far has been on the back burner. This issue is tailor-made for Bernie Sanders. Oh, he's feeling the burn as he gets to highlight his consistent record as a non-interventionist. It might be what I like best about Bernie Sanders, and his wisdom in foregoing Middle Eastern conflicts sets him on par with Ron Paul. These wars are costly, they're deadly, and endless. And other candidates who come out against the hit, they're just doing a Bernie Sanders impression. And they're no Larry David. Andrew Yang says we should invest in diplomacy. And he's right that we shouldn't be remaking the Middle East in our Pottery Barn image, but we should be investing in individuals, which means letting people keep their own damn money. Tulsi Gabbard is also Bernie light, but she has a little more gravitas, having worn the uniform, and she's completely repulsed by military pursuits, like the vegan who used to run a slaughterhouse. She calls Soleimani's death an act of war, which sounds a little Rose McGowan-y. Then there's the Joe Biden side, where the candidates acknowledge Soleimani was a heartless, murderous terrorist who deserves to rot in hell with bin Laden and Baghdadi. But they can't give the president a win, so they have to qualify that Trump is too dumb to be making such big and dangerous moves. Buttigieg parroted pretty much the same point, but like Gabbard, his words have more weight, since he's a Navy man and understands the price of battle. Elizabeth Warren is playing Alex Jones here, and her analysis boils down to, it gets us off impeachment, therefore it's a stale tale of wag the dog, just like Mama and Peepaw used to tell me. The real question for these wannabes is, how serious and specific does the threat have to be to qualify as imminent, and what would cause you as president to act? We all know vacuums make problems, especially in the Middle East. So how do you, as commander, guarantee Iran doesn't become the latest? So far, Bernie gets the most points for consistency, but he has to show his work, as sometimes messy ideologies collide, to make even bigger quagmires. They are all not ready for primetime players who have yet to fully explain how, short of blaming the president, they would clean up this latest mess. And that's the memo. Earlier tonight, Tulsi Gabbard told Fox News' Martha McCallum that the past 2 decades we've spent in the Middle East would look like a cakewalk compared to war with Iran. Watch.
An all-out war with Iran would make the wars that we've seen in Iraq and in Afghanistan look like a picnic. It will be far more costly in lives, and American taxpayer dollars, and all towards accomplishing what goal?
So who's right, Bernie and Gabbard or Biden and Buttigieg? The party panel is back. Inez Stepman, Michael Starr Hopkins, and Matt Welch. So I love ranking the various candidates based on how they respond to something. But the point I was making at the beginning of the memo is, you know, this is not just a tap dancey campaign talking point. This is really serious. And if one of them is elected, they're going to have to clean up what this president has done now. But you also have to very clearly outline, what is the line? When do you act? And also, what does withdrawal look like, right? For me, one of the better things about the field, or at least many in the field, including Tulsi, Mayor Pete, Elizabeth Warren, is that they have said, we will take our troops back home from Afghanistan, which is something Trump has said that he's wanted to do, but he's been talked out of it and he's made other decisions. But that's also going to leave a vacuum. You said about vacuum. The vacuum is not going to be in Iran. The vacuum is in Iraq now. Yes. Right now, the Trump administration is talking. There's a weird flurry of memos that went out today, confusion about whether we're sort of planning leaving Iraq after the parliament told us to go take a long walk off a short pier. So that does create vacuums. However, what's the balancing test for you? Do you create a vacuum, or do you stay there forever with gigantor embassies that are, as Thomas Massey, the fortresses, has pointed out, there's like, expensive fortresses. Please attack us so that we'll stay forever. So it is a difficult question. I'm heartened to see that some of these guys have said that all these things should be authorized by Congress. And as Buttigieg has said, there should be a sunset on every new AUMF for 3 years, which is great. It is unbelievable that they're still abiding to the Iraq resolution. And that is their justification, because there are so many problems here. And, you know, with Soleimani, like, he was fine being the architect creating new vacuums because he knew how to fill them with his militias. But now that he's gone, what happens to the power structure, not only in Iran, which, you know, still has a great deal of wealth and infrastructure, but places like Iraq and Syria?
I mean, I think that's the great question. For these candidates, and even for the president, you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you pull the troops out and there's a terrorist attack, then, you know, you're going to take a hit for that.
Or if you pull the troops, and I think this is why President Trump was talked out of, because he wants to, and I believe President Obama wanted to bring troops home from Afghanistan, is you could end up with the ingredients that make something worse than ISIS.
Yeah, I mean, if you look back at Al-Qaeda, it was the Mujahideen, and we withdrew support for the Mujahideen, and then bin Laden came in and started refunding them, and that's how Al-Qaeda came in, and Afghanistan gave them a safe haven, and that's how we had 9/11. And so I think we have to be careful of repeating history once again, but also we can't just be in countries forever, and especially a country like Afghanistan that's never
especially
been
we have
it's
no
a
way of
failed
getting
state.
out and no way of explaining what victory looks like.
Absolutely.
So we've been talking about the vacuum problem, which I think is a huge one. But the second big problem here is deterrence, right? If exactly we want to be able to withdraw some of our assets, especially our men and women in the military, back home, then we need to have a strong deterrent from keeping foreign and hostile countries like Iran from doing things that really hurt U.S. interests. And that requires a strong deterrence. And I really think that's what the president, and people saying he doesn't have a plan, I don't know the specifics, obviously none of us do, about what goes on in the White House. But it seems to me that this is an idea of how to reestablish strong deterrence that doesn't then require additional ground troop commitments for decade after decade. I think that's the line that this president is drawing, saying we're going to hit you really hard when you hit us. Let's not forget, there was an attack on a U.S. embassy that is an act of war. But Iran has provoked us like this over and over and over again. And I think this is the president's attempt to say we will respond really strongly and we will essentially kill your top guys.
I hope it is. I hope it's like if you keep poking the bear, at some point you're going to get mauled, but I don't want the mauling to be protracted.
But I mean, a couple weeks ago, the Iranian people were protesting their own government.
Yes.
Now they're protesting us. I mean, we have to have a long-term plan. It can't just be, you punch me, I'm going to drop kick you in the face.
I know, but that was fun.
I don't know. Jackson proved that drop kicking people in the face is not that bad.
Oh, that Jacksonian diplomacy.
Yes, that's
all right, there it is. The panel returns a little bit later. So much more to discuss tonight,